The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Quirky Dog Podcast, inspired by some of the quirkiest dogs you can ever imagine and the owners who love them. This podcast is brought to you by the quirky couple themselves, Scott and Jess Williams. Their aim is to educate and entertain. Here's Scott and Jess.
Welcome, guys, and happy Wednesday. Today, we are going to talk about forming healthy relationships with your clients as dog trainers. But first, we're going to start with the quirky tip of the day. All right, our quirky tip this week is, I don't know if you noticed, but it's like early November and it's still 60-ish degrees in New England. I don't know what the rest of the country's like. No leaves on the trees, but very beautiful weather. Seems like maybe springy, summery. Definitely not end of fall. So if you are the type of person that stops your preventatives, your heartworm preventatives and everything else in the colder months, consider extending that this year. It is just as warm now as it was, at least early spring when you started these things. So if you are the person that likes to save some money, take a few months off in the colder weather, these warmer temps do warrant still giving preventatives. And obviously, you know that it is tick season like crazy in New England right now. So always good to guard against ticks.
Yeah, we seem to get ticks all year long up in Maine.
I literally was taking...
Doesn't matter if it's 10 degrees or 70.
Sank to the bench one time, in January, it had a foot of snow on the ground. She came back with a tick.
Yeah.
All right. So this week we are going to talk about how important our clients are to us. We have been dog trainers for really the majority of our lives right now. You've been doing this, 20 years? You've been dog training?
Almost 25.
Yeah. You've been dog training now longer than you've been roofing. I've been a dog trainer ever since I really could work. We brought these beautiful ribbons that Magali and Chad brought for us. They were laying on our table.
This is the only woman ribbon.
He's got women on the brain. Let him be.
The only ribbon I've ever won.
Stop it. No, but they brought us these lovely ribbons, and they say best in trainer, and Scott got one. It's got a little border collie on the bottom. Mine
is MAGA colors, you notice that?
Stop it. Mine happens to be the same colors of my girls. Vital's color is teal and Sync's color is purple. But it kind of got us talking and thinking and kind of fleshing out, what do our clients mean to us? What kind of relationship do we strive for with our clients? And I think overall, our clients enhance our lives a lot, gifts aside, nice gestures aside. And I think it's important as dog trainers that we offer kind of a service that goes a little bit above and beyond and supports them as well. So I guess when you were in California...
I guess I could try that.
Oh, stop it. You do. So when you were in California, you weren't really going to people's houses as much.
Rarely.
So we changed that model here.
In fact, I would say never.
Yeah, you had I
had a location.
They came to you. So when Scott came to New England originally, he would do an in-home. So he would maybe see the person at the first part of the in-home for the sale. We started doing...
Actually, originally I had a location in Mass. 2 different ones.
Yeah, but you still did in-homes also.
Rare.
Yeah, You offered it.
Yeah.
And then when we did our boot camp program, we decided to enhance that. I don't know, maybe 5 to 8 years in, and offer the last session at the house just to kind of give more customer satisfaction, to kind of tidy up loose ends where, maybe things look great in the facility, they look decent in public, but, when someone rings the doorbell at their house, there's an issue. So we tried to enhance customer satisfaction that way. And now we are in people's homes more than ever. We have not had a facility since COVID. We probably won't have a facility again. We do a lot of in-home stuff. We do returns at the people's homes. Scott's going to people's homes, 4 or 6 or 8 times within a short time frame. So we really have kind of changed even the scope of what our relationship with our clients looks like. It's kind of transformed into this whole other, beast of them letting us into their inner circle and into their homes and everything else. And that just begs the point that stuff comes up, right? People's moms maybe are living with them and they're sick, and just you're hearing a lot about clients and what's going on with their lives, and we're very present in that. We are very not every day texting everybody like, oh, how was, coffee with your sister yesterday? But big things end up happening in our clients' lives, and we inadvertently become a part of them. A lot of times if we have to board their dogs, if they're dogs that board with us and they don't go away without that, they're going away because someone passed away or something tragic happened. So over the years, we have clients now that we've had for over a decade here, and they keep getting new dogs, and they keep being our clients. But we really try to over-deliver as much as we can. And I would say that our clients really, truly do bring more to our lives than most dog trainers may allow to enter into their careers. And I think it really can transform the way that you see your career and just kind of how you see humanity based on the relationships you form with your clients. So we're going to touch on that a little bit today.
Well, it is hard to not get too emotionally caught up in the clients and their dogs, but it's important from a longevity perspective that it's just not healthy to get too emotionally involved in all these different dogs and relationships.
Scott doesn't get too emotionally involved in anything.
I
so
need to keep a healthy distance.
That works out in his favor.
Did you work your dog today? No, goodbye.
No, and that there is a fine line with that. Like, again, some of our clients have become friends over the years. Some of our clients, we've been to their weddings. Like, things have transformed in different ways. But yes, there needs to be a healthy line and everything else. But that does open up the point of communication, which I think we are overly requesting of communication. We want people reaching out with questions, whether it be classes, whether it be a boot camp or something else. And a lot of our clients have said, like, oh my gosh, our last trainer was like really upset by, anytime we would ask a question outside of class. And everyone has their own different policies and everything else, but we really want like an open door with communication to be helping people and their dogs sight unseen. And of course, if it gets excessive, if people are texting us 20 times on a Saturday and they haven't done a class for a month, we're going to say, hey, let's get together for a class. But I think it's important that the clients know that you are approachable and that you are there for them when you need them, because stuff comes up, stuff happens. And if it's like, oh, we'll address that when I see you in 3 days, sometimes you've missed the moment. Or there's maybe people staying at your house and the dog isn't comfortable and you have to deal with that now for 2 to 3 more days. You're not going to get a quick class in the meantime. And, this is not to knock anyone else's policies or anything else, but we have just really benefited from the more that we give, the more that we give of our time and our hearts and our knowledge and, all of this stuff, the more we're getting back. And I think that has been something that we are delivering at a higher level now than we ever did before. And I do think part of that is this relationship where clients are dropping dogs off at our homes and they're always seeing our homes, and we're going into their homes and we're having coffee with them at their kitchen table and everything else. But it just is a real testament to how we have created our business and what matters to us. And I think that our clients appreciate that, and they certainly have benefited from that. So I do think it's important to not have such a clinical approach when you have your clients. And Scott and I both have pretty good interpersonal skills. We're pretty good people, and of course, that helps. Not everybody in the dog world can relate well with other humans. Sometimes they do best with dogs. But I really think that it helps the clients absorb the information better, internalize the information better, and really feel heard and seen. I think that's an important thing that sometimes is lacking in our industry. People just being kind of cast away and, oh, that's not a big deal. You don't know what you're talking about. No, like, it is a big deal to me. This is a problem for me. Like, I'm embarrassed when my dog is barking as I pass, another dog on the street, XYZ. So I do think it's an important thing to think about.
Well, I think that we run a relatively small business in relation to what a lot of dog trainers are doing out in the country and around the world. So that means we don't have an exorbitant amount of clients. And I always encourage people to text me or call me anytime they have a question. And I enjoy it when they do, because the majority of people do not want to bother me, maybe, or they're just not.
They don't abuse the system.
Or they're busy, they're not really training much, or it just kind of, they have a problem with their dog, they need to get it handled, but they're just not 100% invested in the process yet. They've paid, they're trying to do stuff, but they got kids, they got business, they got all kinds of other things that are leaning on them hard. And the dog, it's hard to find time for the dog quite often, even though they mean well. So it's nice when someone is doing the homework, having a little trouble with the homework, texts me, sends me a video, hey, how does this look? I think that's great because they really want to get the dog trained.
Yeah,
you know what I
and
mean.
we want to be there.
Yeah, they want it. They don't want to keep doing. And the other thing is, I don't want people doing the wrong thing for a week straight or 2 weeks straight in between classes. So if there's any question, let me see what you're doing so you can get reps of doing the right thing and not reps of doing something sloppy or something counterproductive.
Yeah, it doesn't best serve the dog that way. All right, let's go to break super quick. When we get back, we're going to talk a little more about how important it is to have a strong and healthy relationship with your clients.
Want to keep up with all the latest from the Quirky Dog podcast like me and Murphy here? Then make sure you head on over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Or if you prefer to listen to the madness, go on over to iTunes or Spotify and follow the Quirky Dog podcast. And hey, while you're there, leave a rating and review and let them know what you think of the show. Until then, keep it quirky.
All right, we're back. Another thing that happens quite regularly in our profession is, a dog that we trained 12 years ago, 15 years ago, depends on the age of the dog and we trained it. The owners are going to be reaching out to us when it's time for that dog to move on to the next dimension or over the rainbow bridge or whatever your take is on that whole thing. And I think handling that delicately and from a place of it's just real, heartfelt understanding, right? Like, we've lost dogs. We understand how hard that is. Like, we're really there for them. We always, return the call, return the text, find an old picture of the dog, send it along, have a little story about that dog. Some people get, little client gifts of, plaques or something of their dog. It kind of depends on the relationship that we had with that dog and that owner. But that is something where they're going to loop back with you. You're someone that was a big part of that dog's life. And quite frequently, it's so kind of them and it makes us feel, really worthy, but they're like, thank you so much for this. Like, we couldn't have kept this dog had we not worked with you, a decade ago plus and all that. So I do think that it's important to note that if people are going to be reaching out to you in that time, definitely take the time to call them back, whether it's the same day, next day, whatever else, be there for them in that moment, because not everyone in their lives is going to understand how hard it is to lose their beloved animals. And they are trying to loop you in and include you in this moment, which has been a profound moment in their lives. And I think the way that you react in those moments does matter.
Yeah. And I think, even, a lot of people have some trauma related to their dog if they've had dog fight, extreme leash reactivity, and they're just scared before they walk out the door with their dog that it's going to happen again. They're thinking about all this stuff. So there's really an emotional vulnerability there where they have to share this fear that they have with somebody else and talk about how they really legitimately don't want to take their dog out for a walk because they're afraid of what the dog is going to do. So helping them get over these humps. I mean, I told a client the other day, a new person, they texted me about, they wanted me to come out to the house. They got a dog with extreme dog reactivity. And I said, no problem, I'll bring a dog with me. And the lady, in the text, she's like, oh, geez, no, don't do that. She was all stressed out. Just thinking about another dog coming to her property was very stressful. And I said, I'm not going to take the dog out of the car. I'll have a dog with me, and let's work your dog. And when I got there, we worked the dog. I took my dog out. I worked her dog around my dog, and everything went fine. There was no craziness. Everything was calm and under control. And then she told me about how stressed she was about me even coming because of all of her past experiences with that particular dog. So people are emotionally vulnerable. A lot of people don't like that. I certainly don't like that. I don't want to share that with other people. But
You've gotten better.
I'm pretty solid in all ways, so it's really not an issue.
No, and that is a good point to bring up that, we talk a lot on this podcast about how dogs are a reflection of you and, the hard points in your life sometimes, and sometimes it's not even about the dog. So stuff like this is bubbling up. Stress with the kids, stress with health, stress with, your spouse, stress with your parents, stress with work. This is kind of coming to the surface a lot in these dog training sessions. And as dog trainers, it is important for us to kind of rise to the occasion and help people in that moment. That does not mean that you're totally hijacking the dog training session now and talking about, HR issues at their, office job in Boston. But it does mean that you're letting them know that, yes, that's a point of stress. Let's channel that into being mindful and in the moment and everything else with the dog right now and being present. And that may help you heal and help you, get a better understanding of the situation and just stepping away from it. But it really is important that when people are sharing with you their vulnerability, their, fears, their embarrassments, whatever it may be, and a lot of times it's their own character flaws that are coming up, you need to handle that that with some grace and, let people off the hook, like give people a break. Don't be so, pushy, like, oh yeah, you better fix that or your dog's not going to get better. Give people, the best part of you. And obviously we have a little levity too with our dog training sessions. We're pretty light humored and everything else up here. So that's good too. Like to, be in the moment, be vulnerable, but if you can get a laugh out of them and keep things light, that always helps as well.
It's just nice to come up with a plan for people because a lot of the anxiety and stress is because they don't have a plan and they're trying to deal with a problem on the fly without a plan. And that, of course, is stressful no matter what it is you're doing in life. So just like anything else that's important to you, you want to think about how you want that relationship to unfold. And getting from point A to point B to point C. It's just, and you need to go through that, and that's what in the dog training class, especially if you have reactivity or that type of thing, it's like putting together something that your dog understands and you understand. So, and it's all in preparation for when you get one of these triggers that pop up.
Yeah.
Whether it's a dog coming out of
real
a corner.
World support. Yeah.
And what do I do? And that's what we do in classes. Like, how do I handle this? Okay, well, there's a lot of options, but you can pick option 1, 2, or 3, do something. And you've got 3 options that we've burned into your brain. You pick any one of those 3, and here we go. Action.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. And another thing that Scott does, I don't know if this is talking as much about relationships with clients or techniques here, but it's not just talking about stuff, it's actually going through the motions, like go through these scenarios, practice it. He pretends like he's the dog just to give people the confidence, because I think a lot of times people are lacking the confidence. Yes, they haven't handled the leash and they haven't had these success in these types of situations, but just hearing like anyone say, but especially a dog professional say, like, no, you're going to be okay. You got this. And the more that they're walking in with their head held high and they have a plan of action that they know they can follow, the better off it's going to go for all parties. So I do think that everything is interrelated, and I'm not saying that you have to have your clients over for, Saturday night dinner and, sing Kumbaya around the fire with them, but it is really important to go the extra mile. And we've always really put everything we can into our clients, but especially these past few years, I've really seen it pay off. And, it's the type of thing that, people send us pictures like, oh, my kid just graduated from college. Like, here you go. And a lot of times the dogs are in these pictures too, which is part of the reason they're sending it to us. But they're sharing their lives. They're sharing their families with us. And I think it's important to acknowledge that and say like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. And, Rover looks great. Thanks so much for keeping us in the loop. And these long-term relationships, it's how it works out. If you're a dog trainer and your clients like you, you're going to have a 10+ year relationship with these people. And, at first, that kind of is daunting to Scott. He kind of likes the short sale where he doesn't have to have people always, coming back and reoccurring in his life. But people do need follow-up classes. People do like to do follow-up boarding. We are seeing these people for longer and longer terms. And we just really want there to be this open door communication, this very healthy way of sharing, them reaching out if they're concerned and not concerned that we're going to say like, oh, well, pay us XYZ if you want that fixed. No, we're here for you. We're here to support you. Now, if someone's done all of their classes and new problems are popping up and everything else, yes, there's different protocols for each thing. We are very conscious of, having good boundaries and everything for our business as well. But if people, are checking in midweek when they're training and they're doing classes with you, I think that it is in your best interest and in your client's best interest to help them, to take 2 minutes out of your day to help them out. And Scott mentioned that we are a smaller size business right now, and I guess that is true. We probably do 50 to 75 boot camps a year, and we have probably 120-ish contracts per year overall. So we do have a very hands-on feel with our clients versus having, 6 trainers who are working under us and, they're the ones that are communicating with clients. We're not just there for the first sale and then we never see them again. But make sure your trainers that are working for you, your employees, are aware of these types of things too. Coach them on how to go the extra mile. Throw them into some, coaching about communication and everything else if this isn't, something that comes naturally to them. Because it really does enhance the quality of the information you're providing, the service you're providing, and long term, it just helps the dog, which is really why we're here. We're all about helping the dog.
Yeah, and I think as far as the relationship with the clients, trust is like the first thing. From the very first phone call, it's about establishing some type of relationship where there's a mutual trust, where they feel first of all, they got to pay me, sight unseen. And some people have trouble with that. They're like, oh, I don't like to use my credit card over the phone. I don't like to use my credit card with websites because I've been hacked. No problem. I'll come to the house. You can give me a check when we get to the house. Then I can work with their dog and start to alleviate whatever concerns they may have. And then there's another big leap of faith and trust where they say, okay, I do want to work with you. I am going to pay you a chunk of money to see if we can do something together. And that means they need to trust me that they can be open with me and not feel as though they're being criticized or ridiculed. That, I'm like, yeah, it's the same with most everybody, these feelings you're feeling, and working them through these things. But they need to be able to feel that they can trust you with their dog, who quite often is the most important member of their family. I mean, they may not have kids. The dog is the number one
Or they may have
priority.
kids and the dog is still the number one.
Yeah. So they need to feel as though I'm not going to put any undue stress on their dog or be unfair with their dog. And we need to use a methodology that they can also follow through with, even though they care about their dog more than I do. And I tell them that. I mean, I look at their dog in a more clinical sense because I've worked with so many dogs. I see their dog, I evaluate the dog, I work with them. I'm getting a feel for what that dog's temperament is like. And then I know from experience how it's going to go. Yeah, the dog may dip a little bit in attitude for a moment and then come back up, going through that learning curve. But I've seen it so many times, it doesn't concern me. But for the average dog owner who's new to dog training, they might say, oh, this doesn't look good, or the dog isn't taking a treat. Maybe they're not happy. What do I do? And just working them through all these little things.
Yeah, no, trust is a huge point. That's a good point to bring up. All right, if you guys have been listening to this podcast and you're thinking, oh my God, my relationship with my dog trainer totally sucks. Like, I don't know what to do. Next week, we're going to do when to fire your dog trainer. So that is going to be a podcast that you're going to want to listen to. We have a lot of good points for that one. If for some reason you are local to us and you do want to work with us in person, our service area goes from Manchester, New Hampshire to Portland, Maine to Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Thank you again to Magali and Chad for these beautiful ribbons.
Very nice.
Have a great week, you guys, and keep it quirky. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.